Class 1 breeding heifers. Class 1 breeding heifers, come to the holding area, please. Now let's have all Americans come to the holding pen.
Good morning, everyone, and it seems to be a good morning for a stock show. Much different than what we're used to. Typically with stock show weather, it is cold, icy, rainy, all at one time. But today we've been blessed. It does look a little cloudy outside, but the weather has been much better for stock show season than we're normal to. What is happening right now is the first class of breeding heifers. This is an American class. And when I say an American class, I know you're probably saying, James, we're in America, but we're talking about the classification of breed, and it's an American breed. You are going to see some different animals out here, and they go from black-hided to red-hided. But these are breeding heifers, and the purpose of this particular entry, the exhibitor is raising these animals for the sole purpose and thought behind it of being a breeding animal, meaning that they will be returned to a herd, whether it be the exhibitor's own herd or another cowman that will buy it. And they're actually purchasing this animal to have calves later on. This is kind of the start of how you get started in the cattle business. It happens from a heifer. And that heifer will then grow up to the appropriate age, and it will then have a calf, and that calf will then be raised up and it will be marketed, and that is how the American cattlemen actually make their money. And you have a registered herd, which means that they are coming from stock that the DNA and the lineage has been proven year after year after year, and there's records of that breed. And that is considered a registered animal. And then, of course, you have the commercial animal. And the commercial animal doesn't mean that it may not have papers. Doesn't mean that it's less inferior than a registered animal. But that commercial cow is what makes up most of the herds that you see driving up and down the roads in the countryside. And that is what makes up most of the cattle business inside America. And right now the judge is asking for them to move the livestock around in the arena so he can step back and take a look and evaluate. There are a couple of things that he is evaluating and looking for. Part of it is the structural makeup, and that's the skeletal makeup, the muscle makeup. He's looking at also how quickly this calf or this heifer can breed back.
My hat's off to you guys that are responsible for having the show.
And it looks like he's about ready to
make these things happen. I appreciate you for all the hard work you do, and all those that are out there that have made this possible for you. So it's really a nice way to start off our heifer show with a little black heifer that's going to lead off. That was kind of my kind. Moderate frame, big body, big bone. Yet it looks like a heifer calf. It's delicate fronted, long and thin, rising high into her neck. It's an awful nice female there to lead off this class. Red paint heifer that's going to be second. It's a little bigger frame, a little longer body. They get a little more extended up to her front end. She's just not quite as big red, not quite as much width and chest floor in her. I think she gets in trouble just a bit when we ask her to go off her rear line. A little red ranger third is a nice effort in her own right. She's got some muzzle shape to her. In this lineup, she just gets a little frail for me. Not quite the dimension in terms of total beast width until we find in the heifer that wins the class. When we round out the class, a little April beast master heifer. This lady has here that's got a bright future in front of her as well. Out here today, she's just got to have a nickel more mass to be more competitive in this lineup. Good group of cattle, awful nice way to start our show.
So that concludes the first group of breeding heifers. We're going to have the second class coming in here shortly. As you heard from the judge, he was talking about the structural makeup of the animals. That's one of the things that he is actually judging them for. And why that structural element is important is because, number one, that's going to determine how easily that calf or that heifer will breed back and be a part of the business. But also, when you're looking at the structural makeup and the muscle makeup, that's also going to determine characteristics that's passed off to the calf that it has. And ultimately, most of the calves that are raised each year inside America is done for the whole purpose of marketability, what you see inside the supermarkets, what you see inside the meat case. And so they want to make sure that they're going to have a cow that's going to produce a marketable calf, a calf that will be profitable for the cowman. And so that's why these animals here are being evaluated. They're looking at what they will bring into profit for the cowman. Very nice group of heifers coming in here. You're going to see that the majority of them are black-hided. One of the reasons for that being is because for the commercial cowman and even the registered cowman, black-hided animals in Texas bring a premium at the sale barn. So that means that it's increasing the profitability for that calf. And what a nice group of heifers here. You can see structurally they're very sound. You've got some nice body to them as far as length. You've also got some nice muscling that's going on, so you know that they're going to have some good traits that they're going to pass on to the calves that are going to come up. And that's going to be important, like I said, for that cowman that puts this into their herd for breeding animals. They're going to be able to bring some profitable calves on the ground. And American ranchers right now, it's a very unique industry in that they run on some of the tightest profit margins of any industry inside America. So anytime you can add quality animals to your herd, then you're helping yourself out a little bit, because not only do you have to fight the trends inside the marketplace, but you also have to fight Mother Nature. Rain doesn't come, drought happens, now you're having to feed the animal. And so you're having to spend a little bit more money to turn a profit, so to speak, and so it eats into the profit. So you want to make sure that you have good quality cattle out in the pasture, because that's what's going to make the money for you. As you can see, the exhibitors are lining them up now. So the judge was able to get a view from the back of the animal so that he could see what they look like structurally, and now he's going to get a side-on view. This is where he's going to be able to look and see more about the height, more about the bone structure, more about the skeletal makeup, which is going to be very important in his evaluation. This class has 4 heifers. And if you'll notice out there too, some of the exhibitors are setting their animal up. What we mean by setting up the animal is you want to make sure that your animal is squared up, so you will actually put the 4 feet in basically a square. And you have to understand that these animals right here are going to be pushing 1,000 pounds or larger, and so you have some very young people on the business end of a heifer. But one of the things that this also lets a person evaluate is the disposition of the animal. And of course, every animal, they're coming from a barn, they're coming from kind of a known surrounding to a very unknown. They're surrounded by animals that they have never seen before. They're surrounded by more people than they normally see in a day. There are sounds out here that they're not used to hearing when they're in the barn or in the pasture. But this gives you a great opportunity
Class 1 American
to look at.
First place.
This lets everybody evaluate the disposition. If the animal is really calm,
and Betty Carter, 4th place. Congratulations.
If the animal is really calm here in the ring, then you know.
Another nice class. The heifer's here, and there we go. We got a little more voice now, but I think a really nice way to start this class with a similar heifer there that leads off, one that's got a tremendous amount of muscle shape there. She's yet sound enough in the eyes. Here we go. She comes pretty square off both ends of her skeleton. She's one that's got a little more shoulder, and what's the ideal? But in order to have that much mass and dimension behind, I think you've got to give up a little bit of that shoulder up there to gain that. So an awful nice female there. We might get extended up just a bit from the point of her shoulder forward, but a nice way to start the class. I think the next solid one is Big Master Heifer that's got to land second. There's one that's super long body. She's very attractive made. Just got to have a little more cow power there in terms of true base width and in terms of true muscle mass in order to get that heifer around the black heifer that leads off. Heifer that's going to be third, super strong top, very long and level hip. There's one that's got a nice depth and arch to her ribs. She's plenty wide base behind. The problem is she just gets a little steep in her shoulder for me. She's a little more upright the way that shoulder blade is designed. It causes her to look that much shorter and you analyze her up to her second and third. It's going to run out the class and the other second class, giving you that all they want today. And there's one that's had a bright future for me today. She's just a little rounder hip, a little more upright in terms of the hot shape, and what we find in the 3 cattle that go out in front of us. All nice group, nice effort to lead off. Let's give all these youngsters a nice round of applause up there. Nice job.
So if you'll notice, the trend was holding true in Class 2. The majority, there were 4, so 3 of them were black-hided. That is leading itself to what we see inside the auction barns right now in the cattle market, is that there is a premium. And the thought process behind that is, number one, the American Angus Association has done a very good job of marketing their product. And so you will typically see those animals that carry an Angus influence that are going to bring a little bit more when they go across the scale, bring a little bit more when they go into the ring. Now you're going to see a little bit different here. These are truly your mature breeding heifers. You're probably going to see that these are actually even bred, which means that these exhibitors have now started putting them into the whole marketing process. That means that they are carrying around what will be a soon paycheck for the exhibitor, because they will have a little one on the ground. A couple of things that they don't talk about, but what they are going to be looking at is they want an animal that doesn't have a very large dewlap, and that's the skin that hangs down along the brisket and the neck. They're going to want an animal that has a cleaner line there. Sometimes cattlemen are looking as far as the amount of ear that an animal has. The reason why that's important is because that's showing you the amount of Bramer influence based off of that ear. A lot of cattlemen down in South Texas, they're going to want an animal that has a little bit more ear to it. And what I mean by that is they think, and it's been proven, that the Bramer breed is a little bit more.
Last breeding meet was first place, Luke Gonzalez. Second place, Isabel Hernandez. Third place, Amber Robles. And fourth place, Troy Batiste.
Your Bremer breed of cattle, they're more disease resistant, they're more insect tolerant, and they're also more heat resistant. And so you'll see a lot of crossbreeds that will have some Bremer influence so that they get some of those natural abilities inside of them. But the finish market, the feedlots that are going to be finishing out.
Well, we definitely elevate the bar here in this particular class. Beef Master Heifer that leads off. One that I really appreciate for the moderation of frame size that you find there, and yet just the sheer power in that one. She's got so much base width behind. She's still elegant up through her front end. You know, she's starting to break a bit there right behind her blades, but as far as she's getting along in gestation, that's to be expected. I just love the way that the hip is designed in that one. I think when you ask her to move, she moves with so much flex and freedom behind. You just can't help but use her to win this particular duo. Heifer that's going to be second's a bigger frame, longer sided one. She's super strong top. I appreciate the fact that she is what she is.
So you also see them sometimes that they're kind of scratching underneath their belly. That is just like any other animal. When you scratch underneath their belly, you're calming them down. You're giving them comfort, and that's making them work a lot better inside the ring. It's your way of reassuring them that you're there with them.
Okay, class 3 breeding big was Amber Robles, first place. Bridget Batiste, second place. This should be in holding pen. Start class 7.
So what you're seeing here is the American drive, and what they mean by the American drive and why we call it a drive is you take the first two finishers of each class and they will come in and they're actually going to compete with everybody for the championship. And so you've got your 1-2s out here. Actually, I take that back. You've got the first place of each class. And so the first places will be judged, and which animal comes out as the champion, they will bring the second place in that class in, and they will compete for the reserve championship. So what we're seeing right now is we're actually seeing a Beefmaster. We've got a couple of Brangus inside here, and then we probably have, it looks like it's going to be a Santa Gertrudis. And so if anybody doesn't know, the Sandgert was actually developed in Kingsville at the Kingsville Ranch. And so should have all of them inside for the drive now. Judge is evaluating. And if you'll notice, the exhibitor actually walks past the judge. Judge is watching as the animal moves. One of the reasons that he wants to evaluate that is to make sure that it is free of any deformities, but it also wants to look at the range of movement. Because you have to remember that these cattle, if they're going out into the pasture, they may have to cover a lot of terrain to get to the feed sources and the water. And so it's important that they actually can travel well, because they may have to travel a little distance. And it looks like the judge is ready to go.
We're real impressed with the lineup that we have back out here to grab us a Champion American out of a little Marshall calf out of that first class. And just a tremendous prospect there for me. I love the shape that one has. I love her hip. I like the fact that she's as thin-necked and as extended fronted, and yet her chest plate's laid up into her super high. And then when you ask her to move, that one's pretty sound off the ground as well. I think a bright future in front of that little heifer. And the October heifer that's up at the front of the lineup there, that's got just as much rib shape and as much true muscle mass as any that we have to work with. She gets a little bigger shoulder and a little more open up in her chest more than what I ideally like to see. But man, if you want to moderate your group and add muscle to them, that's the one in this particular lineup that you turn to. When we come down here, the coming 2-year-old female the young lady has for us, much like our March upper calf there's one that's elevated in her chest. She's neat and tidy in the way that she was designed in her joints. She's still feminine up through that front end, and my congratulations to them on doing such an excellent job. They keep the chest out of that one, and I think that's what makes her a unique breeding piece. So we come on down here to our two that stood second. We're missing the little paint heifer that would have been second to the March heifer calf. That one needed a nickel more power, and then we come to this fall here that she's just so elegant fronted and needs just a tick more muscle. And then the big heifer that the young lady has out there, we talked about her just being super long body, very strong top, a little straighter on her shoulder, a little flatter in her muscle pattern than what I ideally like to see. So great lineup. They match up pretty well for me. I like the paint heifer to be champion. Congratulations, young lady. We're going to come right behind her with that March heifer calf out of class 1. She'll be using a nice pair for me.
So your judge has selected So the judges actually selected his top two. So you had the champion American breed, and then you had the reserve champion American breed. What will be entering into the ring here shortly is going to be the British breeds. And in some ways, it was the British breed that actually transformed the American cattle industry. Before you saw the import of the British breed, most American cattle ranchers were raising Texas Longhorns, and so those were wild cattle that were brought over by the Spanish explorers. And especially after the Civil War, and you started to see a boom in the Industrial Revolution, and people started moving into communities and towns, and cities started growing. Well, the need to feed those cities became even great, and so that really truly developed the cattle breeds. and the cattle ranches inside America, because now you were having to feed larger portions of populations, and so you had the famous cattle drives that went across Texas into the Midwest, and then of course they were taking from there and sent into Chicago and other places where they would be processed as beef and sent to the American market and table. But like I said, it was going to be the British breed that is going to evolve the cattle market, and what I mean by that is we had some Hereford bulls that were brought over from England, and now all of a sudden, instead of having rangy cattle and having real long skeletons, not a whole lot of muscle, the beef itself might have been a little bit tough. Now you're going to see the introduction of a different skeletal makeup, one that's going to have more muscle. It's going to have a little bit more beef that once you feed it out, it becomes more tender, it becomes tasty, and that really in and of itself brings out an increase in the cattle market, and it changed the whole shape and scope. And then of course from there we started developing and doing more with crossbreeding, and so in comes class 1 of the British.
The American breed, the grand champion was Amber Robles. Reserve grand, Hilda Dominguez. Congratulations. We have British coming in, class 7.
Two very nice polled young Hereford heifers inside the ring. I'm going to go on a limb here because I'm not able to step out into the ring and really look at them, but I'm going to say that these are probably naturally polled Herefords. You do find the Herefords, there is a naturally polled, and then of course you have the horned Hereford. A lot of cattlemen may end up removing some of those horns, because if they enter into the feedlots, of course those horns cause some damage. They offer a danger to other animals that are inside there, and they also take up room inside the feed trough, and that means less animals that can go into the pen, and that ultimately takes money away. But these are two very nice these are two nice polled heifers. Judge is taking a moment to walk around it.
A nice way to get into our British division here. We've got a May and a January here in this class. We're going to lead off with the May. That one's just so elegant in front of it. She's so extended, and yet she's sound enough at the ground. She's pretty square when you ask her to move off both ends. That's such a long, level, square hip there. You have to appreciate that about her. Yeah, it's not when to get out and move. She wants to get up in her loin just a bit. For me, I like to soften her in her spine. And I think that might come with time as we get more belly and more dimension to the center body in that female. There's an awful nice thing up with that. She can be competitive at the next level. Behind her is a January heifer that gives up some frame size and some length and some future growth to that heifer that leads off. But there's just a real functional mate, kind of a female that's big head and big body. She's got plenty of muscle and plenty of dimension. Just a little quick pattern for me, a little shorter in terms of her makeup than what we find in the little May heifer that wins. Nice pair of females there to go 1 and 2.
Nice little group here of Herefords. Now you're going to see, if you drive out in the countryside, you're going to see that the Hereford breed itself has fallen off a little bit as far as popularity. You don't see it as much, but what you will see is a lot of animals that carry that Hereford cross, and they do that because there is some vitality that is offered because of a crossbred. There is a vigor there that you get that people enjoy. It's that crossbred vigor that helps produce muscle quicker. It helps them convert more with feed.
Hey. Lord, was that Braden and then Brody? Brody's first. Yeah.
breeding
So,
beef.
Class 2 of the British breeds is entered, and here is something a little unique that you're going to see. Looks like there's a Hereford inside the ring, and it also looks like there is the Shorthorn. One of the things that a lot of cattlemen actually try to evaluate when they're trying to decide if they want to put animals inside their cow herd is they want to look at the structure, they want to look at the muscle mass that's coming there, but they also want to look at the milking ability. And why that's important is because you have to remember that for the first 4 months of the calf's life, at least the first 4 months, that calf is going to be getting a lot of its nutrients and a lot of the stuff that it needs to grow and put muscle and become a profit for them. It's going to actually be coming from the mom's milk. And so having a cow that provides
Another really nice pair of females on opposite ends of the spectrum.
a lot of easy milking ability is going to be important.
I like the Hereford heifer to win. There's just so much more cow power in that one. She's so much more dimensional through her center rib. She's one that moves with a tremendous amount of base width behind. I like to elevate her just a bit in her chest plate. She's one to throw a little more chest plate out in front of her than what I think she needs to, but still I think she's one that when you sit back and you analyze her in terms of the true base width and true dimension, I think she's the one that has the most good about her. A little short-horn heifer that's going to be second, a little more elegant fronted. She's a little more raised up in terms of the way she's designed there through her chest plate. She knows a little straighter in terms of her shoulder blade, not near the base width or the center body in her, as we find in the Hereford heifer that wins. But there's an awful nice pair of females there. They complement one another quite nicely. Nice pair there. We'll get them back out here in the division drive.
Well, one of the reasons that the Shorthorn breed is popular, and sometimes you will actually see them.
Class 8 breeding beef, Breeding Heifer, first place, Corbin Burrell, second place.
And we're now bringing in the drive, so we have the British breed drive happening right now. But as I was saying, one of the reasons that the Shorthorn breed is popular, not only does it have good muscle structure and does it provide some good crossbred vitality, but it also has a really good milking ability, which is important for that cowman. And as you can see, the judge is now asking them to walk. He's going to be evaluating how easy they move. As I keep trying to stress, when you put that cow out into the pasture, especially in the Texas Hill Country and surrounding areas, you're going to have some rocky soil, you're going to have some places that are kind of crazy to get to. So you want to make sure that that animal can move well. And so now we're bringing in the second place in the first class. That's one of the things that we need to remind everybody about the 4-H and FFA exhibitors. Sometimes it may seem a little unfair, but we have to remember that we're evaluating the overall desirability of the animal, and so sometimes a younger animal, and you see that here in this particular class, you certainly saw it in the American Drive, the age difference there is going to be some kind of age, and why that's important about the age difference is that you need to remember that when you have a young heifer, you're looking at it and you're having to try to
nice right up on the class winners out here and the ones that sit second to them. Some real breeding pieces out here in terms of cattle that offer some usefulness in terms of moving these kiddos programs on forward. We talked a little May heifer calf about being one that was just super elegant at the rear end. She's a little more framey than what I ideally like to see. I'd like to tone her down just a nick in terms of frame score, maybe give her a bit more base width behind. More importantly than that, when I asked her to move, she just kind of softened that spine. Big July heifer here, the young man's got just a brood cow there in the making, tremendous amount of base width and dimension in her. like the elevator just a bit in terms of her chest floor. And then September heifer that's right behind her, you know, that's a whole different division in most shows. So you got to see these cattle for what they are. I think that there's one that's just super elongated up through her front end. She's one that gives us enough center body. It gives us enough true dimension when we compare her to the cattle that stand on either side of her. Little January heifer calf that will win second out of that first class. There's one that gives us some brood cow look. Just not quite enough frame and dimension in that one when we compare her to the other cattle out here. I think the champion's pretty easy, and then I think you get a little closer for reserve, just because we have so much difference in terms of time and time. I like this one here standing in front of me, no doubt to be our champion. We're going to follow her up with a shorthorn heifer to be reserved. Nice pair of females.
And you see here, and like I said, sometimes you may think it's a little unfair because you definitely could see a size difference in there. It's not so much that one animal was better than the other. It's strictly about age.
Champion.
And the two, the heifer that was in the front line and the heifer that was fourth in line there was of a younger age. And so sometimes in your mind, when you're trying to compare them, you have to kind of project what you think they're going to do. But I guarantee you, a little later on in the show season, and certainly towards next fall, you'll see a change in that. So now we're going to be coming into the exotic breeds. We have two scimitals coming into the ring, and you're going to see here what I'm talking about black-hided and red-hided.
Brody father. He's central.
Two very nice heifers here. Nice body on them. Nice body condition. So these exhibitors have spent a lot of time with these project animals. They spend time walking them. They spend time halter breaking them. They spend time making them gentle inside the ring so that they can walk them around and exhibit it to the judge. This is something that doesn't happen within a week. It doesn't happen within a month. It takes a lot of time. It takes a daily effort by those particular exhibitors. They go out to the show barn in the morning and feed. They go out to the show barn at night to feed. But they also go out and they put a halter on it and they walk their animal. They teach them to sit, not sit, but stand. They teach them to square up so that they can present them to the judge. And that's something that doesn't happen overnight. It takes time.
You know, we do need a bull. Talked about that. Just like walk up there in the house.
Well, a nice way to get into our exotic division here. A nice pair of January heifers there, both of them tremendous females, and as good as they both are, I think the black one's just way at another level. I think there's one that's tremendously long-sided. She's very long and level hip. You ask her to get out and move. She's tremendously mobile. One that's got just a tremendous amount of face width and rib shape to her. You know, I'm going to make her a heel. I'm going to tighten her up just a bit there at the top of her blades and tie her into her neck just a bit higher. But that's getting awful critical on one that I think's got a tremendous amount of future, not only as a show heifer, but as a breeding piece for this young man. Really nice heifer to lead off there. I guess if she weren't out here, we'd be talking all those things about the little red baldy female, because there's one that's got face width, she's got rib, she's got dimension. She gets a little more compact than what that black and white heifer is. She's a little shorter and rounder in her hip, a little shorter up front, a little rounder in terms of the way that her hip, the way that her shoulder is designed. Yeah, it's out with the move. She's still fluid enough. She's big rib, big body. Just an awful nice female there as well. Nice pair to be first and second here in this spot.
So now what we're going to see is the championship drive. So you're going to have your grand champions that are going to be coming in for both the exotic, the British, and American breed. And then they're also going to bring the reserve champions up, because once they declare the champion, then the animal that was champion, then the reserve should, or the reserve of that breed should come in and compete for reserve.
I need somebody to help you carry it.
So this is going to be something really cool that you're going to get to be able to see and compare right here, because you're going to get to see all three breeds. You're going to see the British breed, the American breed, and the exotic inside the ring together.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we'll set up that.
And you can kind of see the evolution of the cattle breeds. And you can see, or say cattle breed, I'm talking about the evolution of the cattle business. Because each one of the breeds that are out here on the sand have influenced the cattle market in one form or fashion. Sometimes you'll hear some people talk about tiger stripes as far as cattle breed. Tiger stripe was actually created by crossing the Hereford and Bramer together, a Brayford, and you can actually see the Hereford heifer inside here. What is also unique is the Shorthorn is walking in, and remember I talked to you about the Santa Gertrudis and how it developed at Kingsville. Well, one of the foundations of that crossbreed to create the Santa Gertrudis was the Shorthorn, and so you actually get to see one of the Shorthorns here in the ring. A lot of times you'll hear people mention the term black baldy, which is a black-bodied cow with a white face. A lot of that is developed because it is a Hereford cross. And so you get to see a Hereford heifer inside the ring. So a lot of the foundations that create the market is here.
I can't hear you. Yeah, that's a very good idea. Thank you.
Quick announcement about getting your pictures. If you get a ribbon, get a picture. Our photographer is Bill Felder. Felder Photography. She's been doing this with us for several years. We appreciate it, and y'all be sure to get your pictures.
So the judge is asking the exhibitors to take a moment to walk the animal around.
Okay, Dalton, we're going to do this, an hour break, then steers. Correct?
We'll start with. Well, you've got the classes
After this championship run, we will have an hour break. When that class starts, it'll be your steer first steer class. Hour break in between.
Thank you.
We're going to be part of it. You want to do American classes like we normally do.
Can you pull my mic? How are you?
Well, a really nice lineup back out here to get our champion and reserve out of the Breeding Heifer show. Youngsters are to be commended on doing a nice job. mares that kept them pulled together. Talk about the American heifer right there. You know, she's getting on in gestation. She's got a tremendous amount of center rib shape in her. Great deal of base width, and yet she's still expressive in terms of the muscle shape that she's got. You know, it's hard to hold that top together as big a middle as she is, and she wants to get a little more peaked right there behind her blades, and then that one is so wide and retained and so wide base behind, maintains that with a great deal of structural integrity when we ask her to get around the ring. Perfect heifer out of that middle dimension is a little younger type, kind of a little younger heifer there. There's a summer horn out here in this lineup. She just balances up really nicely. She's got a big rib in her. She's got very, very sound in terms of her foot and leg structure when you ask her to get out and move. You know, she's not as expressively muscled as the cattle that stand on either side of her, but is she a light muscle herder? I sure don't think so, because there's an awful lot of good parts and pieces in that one. She's good in terms of her joints. You ask her to go. She's super mobile, as we talked about her before. We might like to elevate her chest plate up in just a bit. Little skinny heifer that's going to round out the line up here, a little balding heifer. There's one that just a tremendous amount of dimension of muscle, probably as muscular as anyone that we've had to work with out here. She's got a great deal of arch and strength, she's relatively fronted. I guess the longer she stays out here, the more upright she gets in her shoulder for me, the more she elevates her tail head. I just don't read her as quite as big as sound when she goes as what one or two of the other ones are that are out here. So with that said, I think it's a pretty interesting decision. I think there's a couple of different things that you can do, and I wouldn't argue with you a whole lot. So with that said, let's give our congratulations to these kiddos, and I'll go out here and get you a grand and a reserve if you have to show. to a really nice steer show today, kind of different than we get to start with the British, but man, what a unique way to start. You know, as I talked, the little Beefmaster heifer that won that first class, you know, quality is one of those things that you don't teach people how to find. It's one of those things that you just learn about and you realize it, and I hope that you stand back there at the side of the ring and you'll agree with me that we've got a quality market animal to start this class. There's one that balances up really nicely. You know, he's not the biggest muscled one out there, but anybody can find those big bedded ones. You got to go out there and find the ones that are solid and complete. That's the kind of market animal I like. Really a nice way to start the class. The latest steer that's going to go to, there's one that's got some shape about him. He's a very moderate frame kind of a steer. He's going to take a really high quality carcass to the rail. The young man does a great job of getting him shown. Just not quite the pizzazz and power that we find in that one that wins the class. Little red steer that's going to go 3. There's another nice solid market animal as well. We've got to clean his chest more up a little bit in him and give him just a touch more shape from end to end when we compare him with the 2 cattle that go out in front of him. Young lady needs the round neck to the bigger frame, longer sided, kind of a black steer there. He gets a little flat in his muscle pattern. Leave him around here, lady. He gets a little flat in his muscle pattern when we compare him to the 2 cattle that go out in front of him. Black steer that's going to go next in line probably has a bit more shape right through the center of his quarter. That was just too short for me. He doesn't balance up well enough. He needs to be more extended up front and be longer when you set him to the front of the shoulder back. The steer that's going to round out the class, young lady does a nice job with him as well. You start to talk structure and depth of body and durability. That's where this guy falls short. We just don't find enough center body in him. But most importantly is he just can't go good enough to get any higher in this class today. Awesome way to start. Nice steer that wins.
Thank you, Judge Thomas. As we come in, we had 6th place went to Ms. Courtney Brunel, 5th place to Jennifer Cardenas, 4th place to Claire Hepnor. Coming in 3rd was Bradley Williford, 2nd was Sutton Davis, and Alexandria Thomas was 1st in the class. Our next class up is Class 2. Weight ranges from 1254 to 1338. 4 in this class, and we will sell 3.
So we're back with you. This is the Market Steer Show, and it's a little bit different from the breeding show. What you can see is if you watch the breeding show, you understand that was heifers that are being raised to produce exactly what is about to hit the sand now, and that is the market steer. One of the things that you need to know, this class here is weighing between 1254 and 1338. That is considered now probably the target weight that most of the feedlots are trying to do to finish these steers. So they would technically be ready to go into the processing part of the market. We're actually going to see here, this is the British breeds. They're coming in. You're going to have some Angus. You're going to have Shorthorn. You could possibly have some Hereford. You'll notice here, and I think that the show world is also making a statement as far as what happens on the market side of it. And what I mean by the market side is typically your black-hided, your Angus influenced breeds, they're going to bring more of a premium inside that auction ring. And so if you'll notice, of the 4 steers that are out here, you've got 2 of them that have the black hide. They're going to be that Angus influence. And then, of course, the red one there is a red Angus. And then you've got a Shorthorn that is up at the top. If you'll remember when we talked about it in the breeding steers, we talked about how the Shorthorn actually is known for 2 characteristics, and that is its meat, its muscle structure that it does, which makes it a good animal for finish, but also it has a great milking ability. And that's why a lot of times you'll see those crosses that come in, they're going to have that influence there, and they're doing that because they're looking for the milking ability that's there. And of course, one of the big breeds that was developed here in Texas, and of course that was the Santa Gertrudis, one of the foundation parts of the Sandgert, is the Shorthorn. Judge is walking around. He's going to be evaluating these in a lot of ways familiar with what we've seen as well. And what I mean by that is he's looking at the muscle structure. He's also looking at how well they're moving, if they've got some ability, because certainly if they're going to be finishing these, and these animals are pretty much at the finish level, but if they were a little bit lighter weight, then they would be going into the feeding facility, and that feeding facility course, they're going to want to make sure that the animal can move to the trough and get in there and put on the finish that it needs. So it's going to have some mobility to it.
Four entries in this class. We have London Hall, Ashton Lilly, Savannah Risto, and Erica Canales. Again, this class goes from 12:54 to 13:38. First call on American Steers, class 5, American Steers. Please stand to the ring.
Same principles that are here that we saw in the heifer show. They are going to be setting their animal up. What I mean by that is they want to try to get all 4 legs even. They want to have a nice box to it. The reason that they set those legs that way is to give the judge the best opportunity to look at the structure. And they're looking at the muscle structure. They're looking at the skeletal structure. They want to make sure what it would look like, because when the judge is evaluating this, he's not evaluating them as live animals, but he's evaluating what they would finish out, what it would mean for them to be inside the market facility. And the judge is going to be talking to us now about his choice.
Well, interesting class here. I'm going to start the white steer. He just balances up so much more correctly for me. He's so much longer sided, longer and more extended fronted. He's a little green for me. He's a little harsh to the handle. You get your hands up on him. Weighing what that one does, he needs the handle with a little more shape, and he sure needs the handle with a little more softness. And I just read him as being the best looking one and the one that puts the most in the one package. I think he's the one you need to tie to in this class. No doubt the Captain second's a little further along from a maturity standpoint. He's a little further along compositionally in a hanger carcass that I'm sure has a higher chance of reaching choice. That one just gets a little frail for me. He's a little plainer up through his front end. He's a little frail legged. One that we just need to extend up from end to end in order to make him more competitive. English red steer is a little more stoutness in him, a little bigger bone, considerably wider chested to the point that he gets a little open fronted for me. Wants to open up the front of his shoulders and get just a bit weaker right there behind his legs than what the cattle are that go out in front of him. But there's a big centered one that's got plenty of muscle shape. When you get right behind him, for me, just doesn't balance well enough to go up any higher in class. We round out the class with the black steer that is going to take a pretty high quality carcass when we put him on the rail. There's one that just for me gets too flat muscle. You get right behind him and you see flat in his quarter. You get your hands down his top. We've just got to have more muscle shape in that guy in order to make it more competitive in this particular class. So an interesting class there. I can see you sort them different ways. Depends on where you put your emphasis. I like the balance in the white steer. He's just too good looking not to use it to win the class.
Thank you, and give them a round of applause. Fourth place goes to Ashton Lilly. Third place, Savannah Risto. Second goes to Erica Pernellis. And first to London Hall. Again, three cast place in that class sale for that group. We'll now have our British Drive welcoming back the ring. We will have Alexandria Thomas with her first place and London Hall with her first place. Second places for those classes go to Sutton Davis and to Erica Pernellis.
So entering the ring right now is the British Drive. So you have the first and second place of the 2 classes, and they're going to be competing for the breed champion. So one of these one young exhibitor is going to be classified as the British breed champion, and then we'll have a reserve. Walking into the ring, it looks like we've got 2 Shorthorns and 2 Angus. 4 very nice steers inside the ring. You can see that there is a lot of beef on the hoof here. And the judge is ready to make his decision.
Well, it's been a nice breeder show out here this morning, this afternoon, a nice way to get us started in the market steer show. We've got a pair of steers out here that I think are going to be competitive throughout the day, especially when we get to the end there, because I think both of them have a lot to offer in terms of just sheer quality. Folks, let's put our hands together for those two lightweight British steers in this division. They're going to be champion in this guy right here. Be reserved. Nice pair of steers.
Congratulations to Alexander and Thomas with the champion British steer. And our reserve champion British steer goes to Sutton Davis. Congratulations. We'll see them back in our final drive. Next up, our American Class 5. We have 4 entries in this class. We will sell 3. Exhibitors in this class will be Colton Tudhope, Ryan Pena, Isabella Hernandez, and Brody Kaiser. Again, this will be Class 5 American steers weighing from 1094 to 1176.
Good job, Blake.
How's it going, gentlemen? Is this table working all right? You need more?
Yes, no, it's good.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Everything's working out?
Yes, ma'am.
Am I interfering?
No, you're good. Thank you. So this is going to be the first American steer class that's coming in. It's going to be the lighter weight. There are going to be 4 steers inside the class. The top 3 steers are actually going to make the sale, and that's something that most of these exhibitors are hoping to get, because this is their only way that they've got to kind of recoup some of their expense. And it can be expensive owning a show steer. Show steer can go anywhere from $1,000 on up as far as buying the animal, and that's just to purchase the animal. That doesn't include all of the feed and everything else that has to go into it, vet care, show expenses. So the only way that these young exhibitors have of recouping any of that price and expense, of course, is making it into the sale. And that sale and the success of it is based on people that are willing to contribute, even if it's just $100. If they can contribute that towards the exhibitor, then that's $100 that they're able to take off of their ultimate bill. One of the things that we're going to be talking about all week long is how the 4-H and FFA programs really try to prepare young people for what life is about. They get to see it from the business end of it, because they've made an investment and they're hoping that they're going to be able to have that investment pay off. And the only way that that's going to happen is by being able to place that animal in the sale. And so 3 of these out here in the ring are going to make the sale. So the American breeds, you're going to see half-blood Bramer. You're going to see some Bramer influence. You're going to see Brangus. You're going to see Sandra Gertrudis. So we've got some different animals out here right now. You can see that one of them does have that half-blood. You can tell it's got a little bit more prominent ear. It's got the hump that's on its back, but you can also see that there is a nice Brangus steer, 2 nice Brangus steers out here in the ring. And you can tell that too,
Want to remind all our exhibitors that when you do get your ribbon and you're one of those placing steers, that you need to make sure that you take a picture for the auction with the backdrop with our photographer. Very important for you to do that today. So we're placing 80% of our steers. Please make sure that you make your way and get your picture taken before you leave today.
Right now what you can see is you had a steer that being a little difficult, and of course they're bringing him back so that the judge can take a look at him. Definitely can see from the back end of the steer, he's carrying a lot of muscling. That's the little half Bramer there. He's got a lot of muscling there. Definitely a lot of meat there. And that's one of the things that you have to remember, that they're not being evaluated so much about the live quality, because these are steers. They're raised for the market. They are raised for the supermarket. They're raised for that industry. And so that judge is actually looking at and evaluating these animals. If they were processed today, what they would look like inside the market. He's going to ask them to walk around. He's going to want to check on their movability, but he's also getting that side view so that he can look at the structural and muscle makeup. And I want you to understand, you may see that some of these steers are acting a little difficult in the ring. It doesn't mean that that person didn't work hard with their animal. It doesn't mean that that's what's going on. These animals are coming from a barn in a very kind of sheltered environment. They're not used to seeing all of those people around them. They're not used to all the noise that they're hearing. And so that is going to affect the way that that animal is going to be walking and reacting inside the ring. There are more people around it today than have probably been around in its lifetime. All of that affects what's going to happen. The judge is working on creating his final placements. Looks like the judge has settled on his top two. And he's made his decision. Taking one more walk, looking at their mobility, looking at how they're one of the things that the judge is evaluating is the type of cover that the animal is covering and when carrying. And when we talk about cover, we're talking about the fat content. The amount of cover that the animal actually carries is going to determine some of the marbling characteristics. It's also going to determine how long that carcass can actually hang so that you actually add to the distinctive flavor of the meat. And the judge has made his decision.
Well, really high quality pair of steers here to lead off this class, and if you want to swap that pair, I'm not going to argue a whole lot with you. I'm going to tell you the differences I see in the cattle. I think the black cat just balances up a little nicer. He's definitely smoother right there at the point of the shoulder. He comes more correct out of the top of his blades up into his neck. And along with that, when you ask him to get out and move, he gives us a little better move off that rear leg. He comes and plants that hock, and he has a little more integrity in the way he comes from his knee to the ground as well. I just read that one as being the right kind. I think that he's an awful nice steer. He's a little hard for me today. He's a little harder in terms of his touch and his handle. I think we need to go ahead and get some more fat in that guy, but I just think that there's an awful lot of good in him. I think he balances up really nicely. Where he excels for me is just from a sheer look standpoint. He's so much nicer in terms of his shoulder and hip. I think that's the way that pair needs to go. I'm going to argue the fact that the little Brahman steer's got a tremendous amount of muscle to him. He's got a great rib shape about him. He's got plenty of dimension and durability. He's plenty of bone. I guess for me, he gets a little simple hot behind when we ask him to get out and move. And when I compare him to that one that wins, we just got a little more shoulder than what I think we need to have in order to get around an awful nice steer that goes in first. Big black steer is going to be third. There's one that's large frame with a long body. He needs more muscle and more center rib in him. He's blessed with a tremendous haircut. I'm just worried that when we get that off of him, we don't have quite enough dimension in terms of muscle and power in that guy. in order to get him around those two cattle that are in front of him. The little red steer is a very easy feeding kind of calf. He's probably as far along compositionally as any that we have to work with out here. He just gets a little compact for me. He's a little too quick in his timing kind. He's a little shorter cannon. I just don't see that guy getting to the end point and maintaining enough leanness and cutability from a carcass standpoint when we compare him to the cattle that go out in front of him. But an awful nice set of cattle, high quality duo steers who go 1 and 2.
Thank you, Judge Thomas. As we come in, give us a round of applause. Fourth place, Ryan Pena. Third place, Colton Tedlow. Second place, Brody Pfizer. And first place, Isabella Hernandez. Now coming into the ring should be Class 6 American. In this class, we have 4 entries, including London Hall, Bridget Batiste, Haley Drake, and Ryan Pena. Class weights from here go 1182 to 1294. We will sell 3 in this class.
So Class 2 American steers or Class 2 of the American steers, it would be Class 6 overall for the show. They have actually entered the ring. One of the things that you're going to notice is most of these are true crossbred. They've got some Bramer influence into them. You can definitely see that because they're carrying the shoulder, the hump up on the shoulder. Got a little bit more ear. In the last class, the judge mentioned about movement. And that was one of the things that determined between 1 and 2 and that last class was how well the animal was moving around. You need to understand, even though these steers are pushing 1254, they're pushing mid 1200s, they still are going to have a little bit of time to go as far as, because typically they're wanting to come out of the feedlots. Used to, the feedlots would keep them until they were about 1600, but American diets have changed, the American consumer has changed, they're looking for a little bit more leaner meat. And so therefore the stockyard, the feed yards are sending the animals out now at about 1,300 pounds. These are very close to being ready to go. But when he talks about being able to move, if they had to go back into the feedlot situation to get that final finish, they want to make sure that that animal can move around inside that pen, make sure he can get to the trough with ease, because if he doesn't, then that means that he is not going to be doing his targeted daily gain, which means that it's costing more money.
15-minute break between the Americans and the exotics. So heads up in the barn, 15-minute break right after we finish the American drive.
Once again, we need to remind everybody that when you see the steers out here becoming a little bit difficult, it's because you're taking them into a very unique situation. A lot of them are not used to seeing the number of people. The wind is picking up, so we've got some flags here that are flying, and that movement is enough to kind of startle the animal, make them a little bit nervous. And so really got to give it credit to the exhibitors for being able to control their animals and move them around.
Let's bring your pace to your third. And then your is going to be second if you're leading right around behind the tail cap. Just get right around here.
And so the judge has made his final decision. Got our top 2 here. And he's going to be coming over to talk about it.
Well, a really nice class of steers here. I think it'd make a tremendous livestock judging class, and one that would make even a better reasons class, because there's a tremendous amount of differences in this class of cattle and some things that help sort them, and I think that separate those that can see the differences in them. I like the yellow steer to win. I think that one just balances up so much more correct than the rest of the cattle in class. It's so much longer and more extended from the point of his shoulder to his jawline. So much neater and tighter in terms of the way he ties into the top of his blades. Yet he still opens up a tremendous midrib, and then you get right behind him and you steady that guy He's got as much natural shape and width and dimension of muzzle from behind as any other cattle that we have to work with. Just an awful nice market steer right there. He might want to taper just a bit into the base of the school rib for me, but still just a really nice place to start in this class. A little more moderate framed one is the one that's going to come in second. There's one that's got a tremendous amount of shape to it. If you want them a little bit more moderate, you want to automate packing kind, that's the one you want to turn to. Where I see him falling out is he just gets a little slump in his right there. Once you drop his chest plate down in it, opens up a little more right there at the point of the shoulder. We don't find near the extension and the cleanliness of front end in him is what we find in that top steer. I think the bottom pair for me is somewhat close. I think that a lot of differences in the cattle. I'm going to go ahead and opt to use the black and white steer third and leave the black steer out because there's just so much more meat animal shape in this calf. He's got so much more true shape to his top and dimension and with the base behind. He's a little stronger in terms of the way he's designed down his top line. He's a little leveler and square in terms of his head. He's got to be better legged for me, and I'm going to tell you that I see that in him. I just have got to call him acceptable and go ahead and let him stand where he does. But that rear leg has got to be more correct in terms of the set that he's got to his hop. No doubt the black cat is more agile in terms of his movement on both ends of his skull. He's more correct than the angles that he's got. But we're at a market steer show, so we've got to keep that in mind. I just don't find enough meat animal shape in terms of raw power and muscle and total dimension from end to end in that guy to get him anywhere other than where he is today. But excellent class of cattle. Nice job by all these youngsters. Let's put our hands together on a nice job.
Thank you, Judge Thomas. Fourth place goes to Miss Haley Drake of East Central FFA. Third place goes to London Hall of Madison FFA. Second place goes to Ryan Pena, Southwest Rough Riders 4-H. And first place to Bridget Batiste of East Central FFA. Next up will be our American Drive. We'll be welcoming back to the ring Miss Isabella Hernandez of East Central FFA. And we'll be recognizing Bridget Batiste from our last class coming in our first place hold. Also recognizing our second place, Brody Pfizer from East Central FFA, and second place, Ryan Pena from Southwest Rough Riders 4-H.
So entering the ring now.
We will be taking a 15-minute break between the American Drive and the first class of exotics.
So entering the ring right now is the top two finishers.
Exhibitors that receive permission that you need to take your picture at the backdrop with the photographers for the sale lots.
Entering the ring right now are the top two finishers of the American classes. They're going to be competing for the breed champion. And of course, the reserve and breed champion for the American Drive will then compete with the exotic champion and with the British champion for the grand champion of the show. And so they're lining up the steers now. Nice group of steers here. The judge is certainly going to have his tough decision to make. Of course, this is the second time for him to see this particular group of steers because he saw them in the first competition, in the class competition.
You got to do this for the class 3, second class 1100 and something. It's 1134 pounds. You're showing that. 1130 something. 1135. 1134. See who's showing that. 1134 is in the second. Okay, see who's showing that. Recent. That's supposed to be 35. That's supposed to be 35. That's all I'm trying to say. Well, it's hard to copy. I think the judge has made his decision. Nope. I stand corrected. Right now, the judge is visiting with the exhibitors, learning a little bit more about the animal. If you'll also notice, he's actually touching the animal. That's going to give him an idea of what cover, how much cover the animal has, the finish quality, the fat quality, and he has made his decision.
Well, interesting decision, I guess, for me here in this American Drive. I've got a place I want to go to win, and I think it gets awful competitive when we get to reserve, just because we've got so much differences in the type and kind of the cattle and where they are in terms of maturity, and yet they're still, close in terms of their weight. And I got within 50 pounds on these two cattle that are in contention for reserve. We've got such a difference in terms of how they look and how they get around and how they motor out here. What I like best in this division, for me, without a doubt, the young lady's lightweight steer. I think that one's bright future. I think that one gets competitive as we get close to our end point to hang a banner, and I think that when you get them back out here and you start to line them up and ask yourself which ones of them are the best ones, I think that you have to ask yourself which one you think comes closest to hanging a banner at a major. And I guess that I think that black one just has that right look to him. I think he's one that balances up really nicely. He's powerful, yet he's still athletic, and he's just so cool to look at. I think that one has some really cool things ahead. So with that said, he wins, and then I guess we've got a pretty close decision in my mind for reserve. I guess if I can make the Brahman steer balance up just a little bit better. I like the shape of top a little bit more. I like the dimension that he's got right there at the base of his quarter. He just doesn't handle his hip and rear leg, and I don't know if it's that fact that the sand is so deep out here, or the fact that he's got a little more step in that rear leg. I don't know if that's the indicator or not. That's my problem in the cattle, and the differences I see in those. I'd like to change his rear leg, and I'd like to change the forehead on the yellow steer because he has a tendency to want to foam. But there's only 40 pounds difference in what those cattle weighed in at. Man, it looks to me like there's a 1.5 foot difference in length in them. So, with that said, sort of like you like them, I guess for me, I think the second best one from a balance standpoint, the young lady's yellow steer out of the heavyweight class is going to be a reserve.
Congratulations, our champion.
That's going to conclude the American breed, and we're going to take about a 15-minute break before we bring in the exotics.
Champion American will go to Miss Bridget Batiste of East Central Upper Bay. Congratulations. We will take a 15-minute break. That puts us back about 1:35.
So our first class of exotics are going to be hitting the sand right now, and they're going to weigh in. You're going to see a little bit of difference here because the lowest or the lightest weight is going to be 908,
And the heaviest in here is going to be coming in at 1062 or 1062. So you have about 160 pounds difference. And I know you're saying, but James, I don't know that that's a tremendous, but you're going to see a little bit of that difference when they come in here. It looks like we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 steers. They are going to place 6 of those in the sale. And so they're lining up here now. In this exotic breed, you're going to see a little bit different breeds of animals as well. We're going to have our Simmental, we're going to have Charlet.
And senior, 14 years old and over. Just kind of letting you know.
But the breeds may be different, but the standards are going to kind of be the same. They're looking at the finished quality of this animal, or if he was to be processed today, what that carcass would be like. Now, these weighing at 908 to 1062, they're not quite where they would be. If they were sent into the feedlot system, they'd be coming out at 1250 to 1350. So right about that 1300 mark is what they're taking from the feedlots and putting into the processing facilities. That's what you will find at HEB or your favorite butcher shop. That's the carcass that they're looking for. And if you'll notice right now, the judge is actually kind of feeling the animal. He's wanting to see what kind of cover that they're carrying. And as I've mentioned throughout the day, cover is actually talking about that fat content. And it's not fat in a bad way, because you do want the animal to have some cover. The reason being is because when they process that animal and then they hang the carcass, they're going to want that hang that carcass for a little bit so that it has a better taste. It contains that beef flavor, as the restaurants and other people point to. And so the longer that they can hang that carcass, the more pronounced that flavor is going to be, the more tasty the entree will be. And so you're going to want them to have a little bit of cover, but now you don't want to have too much, because you want more muscle on the carcass than you do fat. And so the judge is out there evaluating that right now. He's going to be looking at bone structure, especially here, because does the animal have enough bone to carry that weight to finish out? Is that going to affect it? Because obviously if the animal doesn't feel comfortable, and it's not going to eat and it's not going to finish out. Now you're going to see them start walking around in the ring. He's going to be looking at their movement, especially at this lower weight class. Movement's going to be important, because they still would have about 200 to 250 pounds to go in order to finish out. Some of them a little over, more than that, about 400. So going into that feedlot, they're going to have to be able to move around. They're going to have to be able to get up to that trough so that they can feed. The longer it takes them to process feed to muscle means more expense for those that are trying to finish him out. And that just means more expense, less profit for the animal. So you're looking to make sure that that animal is going to be a good fit for the process. As you noticed in the heifer show, and you're actually seeing it here in the steer show, the exhibitor is going to be rubbing underneath the underbelly of the animal. This is to keep them calm. The judge has started placing his animals. Looks like we're at the top 4 now. And it looks like he's got his top 3 places. Making a little adjustment in the order. And we're going to hear from our judge, it looks like.
Well, interesting class here. Tremendous amount of difference and variation in terms of type and kind. My steer steers end up making their way to the top, and when we do that, I think the young lady's roan steer is just one that just is so correct in terms of his balance. He's so correct in terms of the way he's put together. You know, he's not the biggest booty one that we have to work with out here, but I like the way that guy ties all his parts and pieces together. And then, more importantly, when you ask him to get on the move, that's where he looks that much better. He holds his top together extremely well. He's got the right kind of hip shape in him, the right kind of rear leg. A nice steer to be a lightweight somewhere on down the road. And then black bravo face steer is going to be second. That's the next muscular and the next correct one in terms of balance, in terms of his structural design, the way he handles himself right there behind his blades, the way he ties his shoulder up into his neck. I think he's the second best one that we have to work with in here. He needs a little more dimension to his forehead. He needs a little more base width behind when we compare him to the cattle that goes out in front of him. Young man's got a big broad bone smoky steer that's going to go third. That guy's got plenty of power in it. He just needs to balance up a little better. He's just too weak right there, right down the top line. We need to level him and square him out of his hip. I think as we go on down there and get that one a little closer to his endpoint, he gets a little more competitive in this class. Big smoky steer that's going to be next in line. He too has got some dimension in terms of with the base and total muscle to him. He's just too weak top. He opens up right there in his blades. Just one of those that doesn't want to balance up near as good as what the cattle are that go out in front. Next calf, the young lady's black calf, is one that's got some dimension to him as well. He studied that one from a structure standpoint. He wants to run downhill. He opens up his shoulder just a bit more than what I think he should. We got a smoky calf that's next in line on the standstill. That one's one you like. He's strong top. He's level and square hip. His problem is when you ask him to get into motion, he's just way outside of his skeleton. When he handles those rear legs, it plants him way outside of where he should. I just don't read him as being near as sound as he needs to be in order to move up in this particular class. We round out the class with the calf that's got a little bit advantage in terms of length of side, length of the end, to the calf that goes out in front of him. He's just too cylindrical and narrow base, and you're setting him off both ends of his skeleton. Study the way he handles his rear leg. I just don't read enough soundness in that guy to move him up in class.
Thank you, Judge Thomas. Give a round of applause to our first place, Jordan McCullough from Hellenius Unlimited. Second place is Troy Batiste from Central FFA. Samuel Castaneda was third from East Central FFA. Paige Drake, shown by her older sister, was fourth place today from St. Henrik 4-H. Fifth place was Galina Castaneda from East Central FFA. Sawyer Davis was sixth from St. Henrik F4H. And seventh place was Colton Cudlow. A nice set of calves as we come in. Those were 6 of those will make the sale. Make sure that you all take pictures. Class 10 is our next class in. Weight break is from 1066 to 1150. 7 entries in the class. We will also sell 6 out of this class. Your exhibitors in this class are Sutton Davis, Sawyer Davis, Logan Miller, Courtney Burrell, Brody Pfizer, which is a correction on the list, and Jordan McCullough, as well as Bradley Gilbert. Again, this will be Class 10 exotics ranging from 1066 to 1150.
So in our first class of exotics, we had 2 scimitars placed first and second. We're getting ready to bring in the second class. The second class is going to be ranging bottom weight of 1066.
ranging bottom weight 1066, and then the top weight in this second class is 1150. Once again, they're still anywhere from about 300 pounds, 200 to 300 pounds of being ideal finished weight that they would be coming out of the feedlot and going into the processing facility. But if you're watching through from class 1 to class 2, you'll get to see what a few pounds or 100 pounds will make a difference in carcass quality. And the exhibitors are now entering the ring in class 2 of the exotic breeds. Notice the muscle structure on these. They're starting to finish out a little bit more. They're starting to hit that ideal of what we're looking for to be choice beef. These are the ones that you're going to find in your high-end butcher shops. These are the ones that you're going to find in the high-end of HEB if you went to Central Market, if you went to HEB as far as the butcher end of it. The judge is taking a look. One of the things that you're going to see as far as the weight goes, not going to be a whole lot more as far as height of the animal, but where that weight difference is going to come into is the development of the muscle, the development of the meat carcass. Judge is making sure he's going along, he's touching the animal, see what kind of cover they've got on them. So some of the key areas that the judge is looking for today obviously is the finish, which would translate to cover. Also the bone structure of the animal, the muscle structure of the animal, how much muscle the animal is actually carrying around with it. And then of course it's going to be movement, how easy that animal is able to move around. So now the judge has asked the exhibitors to take the animals around the ring. This is where he's going to be able to look and see how well that animal can move. Now the sale that is happening next Saturday at the Bluebonnet Palace is what is considered a premium sale, in that that what is actually being auctioned off is a picture of the animal or the ribbon. So this is not a terminal sale, and what they mean by terminal sale would be that this would be the last place this animal would travel. Many of these animals will return back to the exhibitor's home or show barn, in which they're going to be continued to feed them, continue to work with them, because these animals will either wind up at another local show or they will go to San Antonio, Fort Worth, Houston, one of the major shows inside Texas. Judge has started making his placements now.
So it looks like the judge has narrowed it down to his top 3. Those are moving into position.
Okay, guys, if you will, let's walk this chair just one quick little circle right back to where we are, okay?
And the judge has made his decision.
Well, tremendously good class of steers. I think top to bottom as much quality as we've seen in any of the classes. I think we work our way all the way down through this class. I think there's still quality individuals that have been real good carcasses, and more importantly than that, the kiddos have done a tremendous job of getting them where they are. I think when you step back and you study the basics in terms of meat animal shape and look and structure and design, I think the little white yellow steer needs to win. That dude just got so much good about him. You study him from a design standpoint. He's moderate frame, he's big bodied, big bedded. He's super good in terms of his foot and leg structure, and I think that's where he kind of excels the calf in second. If you study from his hook bones back, the way he's designed out of his hip and through his tail head and down into that lower quarter, I just read that one as being so much more correct and so much squarer in terms of his height and time. There's a nice market steer right there that leads off this class. So yellow steer is the next most like him from a design standpoint. He's smooth shouldered, he's long neck. He finds him good up there at the top of his blades. He's got to be a little better with him behind. We need to push his tail head down into him a little bit. I just don't read him as quite having the dimension and flair to the center of his quarter is what I find in the steer that leads off the class. When they first came out here, this one right here really caught my eye. He's a very eye-catching steer. He's one that's going to slick shear extremely well. He's just a little too hard for me today. He's a little hard-centered, and it makes him look a little straighter up through that from him than what I think he really is. I think if we could drop some belly into that guy as we go along in the feeding program and get a little more centered in him, I think he gets a little bit better and gets a little more competitive, because I just think he's got so much style and so much pizzazz. There's just not quite enough center in him today for me to get him above that pair of steers. That race steer that comes next in line is a long body, long fronted kind of a calf. He's just too green for me today. You study him up to the top of his blades, he's opening up right there, and he doesn't come with near the dimension when you study him right there through his forearm is what the cattle are that go out in front of him. I read some good parts and pieces in that guy. We just got to get him further along in the feeding program in order to make him any more competitive in this class today. A little red calf, and one wants to swap that pair. I wouldn't argue a lot, because there's so much more dimension right behind the blades of this red calf. He's so much more expressive in terms of his muscle shape out of his hip. He just gets a little coarse for me, a little coarse in the way he handles his joints when you ask him to move, a little coarse in the way he's designed up through his front 1/3. Smoky Steer is a big frame, long-sided individual. He's got to have more muscle shape and more true dimension from end to end in order to get any more competitive in this particular class. Then we round out the class with the red and white steer that's got some feeding to him, and got some feeding ability to him. As you can tell, he's one that's already putting on in quite a bit of condition. You get your hands on that guy, he's a little too soft for me. You study him through his lower 1/3, there's just a little more condition in that guy to go with the amount of muscle that he has and what we find in the cattle that are out in front of him. So, nice group of cattle, really nice steer to win the class.
Thank you, Judge Thomas. I want to congratulations to Logan Miller from East Central FFA with our first place. Second place goes to Bradley Williford from East Central FFA. Third place, Sutton Davis from St. Hedwig 4-H, followed with Sawyer Davis, with Brody Pfizer from East Central FFA for number 4th place. Sawyer Davis is 5th from St. Hedwig 4-H. 6th goes to Helotus Limited with Jordan McCullough. And 7th place goes to Courtney Burrell from O'Connor FFA. We do sell 6 in that class. Make sure that you get by and get your pictures made. Next going in is going to be class 11. 7 entries in this class. Weight ranges go from 1182 to 1438. In this class, we will sell 6 in this class. And our exhibitors are going to be Savannah Risto, Alexandria Thomas, Braden Williford, Mary Kate Hebner, Macy Rankin, Madison Rankin, and Sabrina Drager. Again, we have 7 in this class. We will be selling 6. We will be doing showmanship following our grand champion selection. Do want to remind you, we'll start with breeding heifers first, followed by market steers.
So our final class for market steers is entering. This is class 3 of the exotics. There are going to be 7 animals inside the ring. They're going to sell the top 6. Ranges here are 1182 to 1438. So you can see almost a 300-pound difference from bottom end of the weight to the top end of the weight. And one of those places that you're going to see that difference, of course, is going to be muscle mass. I don't think I have to tell you which animal actually hits the top end of the scale, because if you could see them out there in the ring, it would become pretty clear. The exotic breeds are going to be Simmental, Charlet, the judge is evaluating the cover or finish of the animal right now. You'll see he is taking his hand and moving it around on the animal. So the judge has finished his evaluation of the feel of the animal. Now he's asking each one of the exhibitors to have them walk the animal around. animals here, with the weight range being 1152 to 1400, they are considered at the optimal weight for most part. They are considered finished. They would be ready to go into the meat case. At the conclusion of this class, you will have the exotic drive, and then once the exotic breed champion is named, then you're going to have the grand champion drive, where you'll bring in the grand champion and reserves for exotic, British, and American breeds to compete for the overall champion of the show.
Yes, ma'am.
Judge has started making his placements.
We'd like to thank some of the people that are helping in the ring with our directors. We'd like to thank Candy Lester. We'd also like to thank Reese Gonzalez. We appreciate them helping out. Ruth Gonzalez has been helping out in the ring too. We appreciate that. They help our directors get everything done. So we give them a round of applause for keeping this battle moving today.
And this show would not be possible without sponsors, and two sponsors that the officials of the show would really like to share today, or thank today, is Texas Farm Bureau and Farm Credit. Capital Farm Credit and Texas Farm Bureau, two companies that this would not be possible without their assistance and help. And the judge has made his decision.
Well, high quality class of cattle, and yet I think a very logical place, at least for me, to land on the win with a young man steer. That was super complete in terms of his type and kind. You get your hands on him, he's very mellow to the touch. He's one of those that's got more dimension right down the top than you think when you stand back off of him, and yet he maintains some look up through his front end. He's one of those that's got some good set to his joints. He goes with a nice long foot stride. You know, he can be a little wider pinned. He wants to be a little more peaked there right behind. I'm going to call him acceptable just because when I get my hands on his top and you get a hold of that loin, he's so super expressively wide, super expressively muscled and so wide right down his top. I just like the type and kind of that steer to win. 60 days from now, there's no doubt the next one's the best one for me. I think that one's got the right look, he's got the right pieces, he's got the right design to his chest score. He's got that slick shearing look to be an awful nice middleweight dot cross. Come Houston time, he's just too skinny right now. He's just not got enough dimension to the center portion of his body. He wants to get a little bit more tapering into the base of that forearm. you get your hands on the guy and he's just too hard for me right now. He's just not near as expressive in terms of right there behind his blades. Man, you asked for one that's good looking, and there he is. He just got to have a little more center body for me and go ahead and swap that pair of cattle. Camp in third, not in third because I think he's too big. He's in third just because I don't think he balances up with the other two that go in front of him. I think that guy's got to have a little more extension in terms of his neck. He's got to set a little more correct at the top of that blade. If you study that guy real close up front, he's a little more straight in terms of the design of his shoulder when you study the way that scapula lays in and then goes on down into his knee. He's wanting to give it a little more butt forward than what I think he needs to. But boy, he's still one that is pretty fresh to the touch, tremendously wide right now on the top of that guy there. I just have to have him look a little better up through that front end. Yellow and white paint's the next one in line. He's the one that gives me the next most sharpest quality. Or desirable in terms of composition. He's got some shape of muscle, and yet he's still soft in terms of his touch. That guy's just got to have a little more look up there for him in order to get more competitive in the top trio of stock. Captain's next in line is a big ribbed, big centered kind of a guy. He's got a tremendous amount of bone work underneath him. To go with that added structure and added dimension, we need a little more muscle shape in him in order to get him more competitive in this class. Maybe a little more shape right behind his blade stems and the smoky steer that's next in line. He's got some dimension to the center of his quarter as well. His problem is when you put him in motion, he just wants to fall apart. He opens up that front end, he opens up at the top of his blades, he gets a little choppier in the way he handles his hip and her leg. We close out the class with a steer that's been pretty easy feeding for the young lady, as one can tell by the amount of condition that he has on him when you put your hands on that guy. We decided to have him a little bit better structured in terms of set to his shoulder and a little more softness in terms of his center rib. Interesting classic cattle, nice one to win.
Thank you, Judge Thomas. As we come into this class, we have our congratulations to Braden Wilford of East Central FFA. This is the second place is to Alexandria Thomas for East Central FFA. Third place goes to Sabrina Draker from Madison FFA. Fourth place goes to Madison Rankin at East Central FFA. Macy Rankin will be fifth from East Central FFA. Sixth place is Savannah Risto from St. Henry 4-H. And seventh place goes to Mary Kate Partner from O'Connor FFA. Coming into the ring for our exotic drive will be our first place winners. Jordan McCullough from our first class of exotics. Next will come Logan Miller from our second class of exotics. And Braden Williford from our third class of exotics. Standing in the wings are our second places, Troy Batiste, Braden Williford, and Alexandria Thomas.
So the animals are now entering the ring for the exotic breed drive. They will crown a champion for the exotic breeds and a reserve champion, and that will come from the 6 animals that you see in the ring right now. They're making their turn around for the judge.
We need to have our American and British champions to the ring. British and American champions to the ring for our grand champion drive.
At the conclusion of this drive, then we're going to have what is called the grand champion of the show. It will be the champion drive. And they will bring in all breed champions.
Mind you, we'll do showmanship after our Grand Champion drive. We'll start with Breeding Heifers, juniors. That'll be 8 to 13. And then we will do our senior Breeding Heifers, showmanship, which will be 14 and older.
And I think the judge has made his decision.
Well, quality sure hasn't disappointed in this particular division, and I think when you sit back and you see these class winners and seconds out here, you'll agree with me that they're quality stock out here that I think can be competitive at the next level. I mean, I don't know that the next San Antonio champions out here in this particular lineup, but there's some cattle here that'll get brands, and there's some cattle here that'll be awful competitive at their endpoints, and I think that's all we can ask for is sit out here and study the ones that come before you and see the differences in them. And you know, as long as we see the same differences in them wherever we place our priorities, that's why they have more than one of these things a year, because all of us prioritize different things. And you know, with that said, I'm real happy with my third class winners that are coming back out here. You know, we haven't had a whole lot of numbers to work with, but yet I've got 3 cattle out here that I think match up fairly well. You look at the seconds across the ring, I think you'll agree that they follow in pretty close in terms of type and time. I'll tell you, if I can put 200 more pounds on the roan calf, I think he wins, because that one has just got so many good parts and pieces to him. He's so nicely balanced, he's so good structured, he's so cool looking, yet he's still got the right meat animal shape to him in terms of shape of muscle and turn of rib and dimension, and he still gives you that show steer look. You know, he's in the upper 9s, and man, I don't know, you know, there's a ways for him to go to get to that end point. And I know we've got a few days left till Houston and Austin and those kind of things, and you know, I'm kind of treating this deal as a prospect show as well, because I know you guys get to go on to your next destination with these. I just worry a little bit that he's a nickel on the light side. I guess if I'm going to be honest with you, I think he needs to be a couple hundred pounds further down the road, so he gets us to a place when we get to those terminal shows that we can be competitive out there in the champion drive. But if you want one that's just solid and functional and a dang good market steer, there's one that you sure need to like in this particular lineup. When we come to an 1,100 pounder out of the middle class, he's got the most sheer power of anything that we've got to work with out here. He's got a tremendously big hip in him. You get right behind him and study him. He's got the most shape and dimension in the center of his quarter. You know, when the young man lets him stand there and relax, he has a tendency to drop and stop. But you study that dude on the move. He moves with a tremendously strong top. I like the way he ties his neck up into his shoulder. You know, he's one of those that we're striving to raise, that are moderate frame and good legged and good jointed, and still give us that show steer look, and still the carcass quality when we get to the end point that we think we need to have. So I guess with that said, you can tell that I like that one pretty well that wins the second class. Steer that wins the third class is just a real honest made kind of a kid. He's got a tremendous amount of width and dimension to his top. As I talked to you before, he can be a little wider in his pins. Part of that's the way he's flipped. He's tied down a little bit tighter back there, right up over his tail head, and back there his pin bones, he's sheared down a little tighter than what the other cattle are that are out here, and it makes his hip look a little more peaked, because when you get your hands on that dude, he's pretty lovely and square hip as well. So put him on the move, sort the cattle like you like them. I guess for me, I like the yellow calf out of class 2 to be our champion exotic. Congratulations, young man. That one's going to be our champion out here today. We're going to follow right up with that class winner out of class 3 to be reserved. Nice right up with that.
And that concludes the exotic breeds.
Miller for the Central FFA, who's your champion exotic. And Braden Williford will be our reserve champion exotic. Next up will be our grand champion drive. So we'll ask back our champion from each of our divisions. In our British division, as he came back, we will ask back Alexandria Thomas with her British champion. Reserve British champion will be Sutton Davis. From our American division, we'd like to have Isabella Hernandez Followed up with Bridget Batiste with her reserve champion. And again, for our exotic division, we'll have Logan Miller and follow up with Braden Williford. Those will be our 6 that will be contending for our grand champion drive and our reserve champion steer. This year, our buckles Our grand champion buckle will be presented by the Black family. As they come in, they've been a sponsor for this buckle for many, many years. We'd like to thank them for their sponsorship as they present it. It's quite an honor for that family as they come in. Have many champions at this show, and Daryl will be here today to present that award on behalf of the family. Allied Feed will be our reserve champion buckle sponsor. Brian Batiste and Liz will be here today. We thank them for coming in and presenting for us on those buckles as well. Thank you, Liz, for being here and doing that presentation. Again, without sponsorships, it makes it very difficult to put on a show like this. If you'd like to sponsor, you'll see one of the directors. They'll be happy to set you up with a sponsorship or a dedication that we can work on that. Afterwards, we'll get straight into our showmanship. So those that are out in the pasture, those that are under the barn, make sure you bring those calves up. We'll be ready for showmanship directly afterwards.
It's Sylvia. Question, where can we scale tomorrow? Where can I put it? Where do we have? I think it's going to require a 3 feet, so like right here. Is there any electricity on that end, on that side?
Yeah, there is on that side, and that's probably that.
Okay.
And then we got on one generators up there on the lighthouse.
Got it. We just need it flat. So you can run it off here somewhere. Okay, so do I need
I will put it within.
okay.
Again, we need all of our champions to the ring at this time. All of our champions to the ring. We're about to begin our grand champion drive.
Okay, the only thing we don't have is the stitching cord with that part.
I'm sorry.
We need a stitching cord.
Yeah, I got it. That way they've got all this that they can spread out on. Are we starting, juniors?
Yes, junior heifer.
Junior heifer?
Don't do junior steers.
So we're not next.
Okay.
No, we're going.
Okay.
Some
judge it from out here, Mr. Zeller? Are you gonna judge this from out here?
Doesn't matter. I probably got a pretty good idea anyway.
I'm showing you the junior,
Yep.
All right, now enter the ring. Our champion British cat from the Central FFA, Miss Alexandria Thomas. Our champion American cat from East Central FFA, Isabella Hernandez. And our champion exotic from East Central FFA, Logan Miller. In our American division, Miss Bridget from East Central FFA, and Rick Roper. Our reserve exotic heifer from East Central FFA, Braden Wilford. Your cats are now in the class.
Well, guys, it's been a really nice steer show, and first and foremost, I want to thank the fair board here for asking me to come short through your market steers the last 2 years, and through your breeding heifers. It's been fun. You know, I always appreciate the opportunity to get the chance to work with so many of these youngsters that my kids grew up with, and you know, our daughters we're thankful that our daughters grew up in this program. They're the 5th generation in my family to be involved in showing livestock, and it's always been super important to us. It's our way of life. It's what we do. You know, I met my wife at a livestock show. We got engaged at a livestock show, and we've been at one pretty much every single anniversary or New Year's or Christmas for the past 23 years. So, you know, we take this industry to heart, and we do everything that we do with passion. And I promise you, there's no one out there that's any more competitive or wants to be a winner any more than I. And, you know, I think that is so important that we instill that in these kids and we make them realize how important this industry is, not only in terms of what it's doing for them in terms of making them better people, but how important it is that they understand what the agriculture industry means to the economy of our entire nation. And you know, you guys go home and spread the word, because the ones that are anti-agriculture are definitely out there spreading the word. Now with our new administration, they're going to be on us even more than ever before. So I urge you kids and you folks to go out and spread the word about American agriculture and what a great job we're all doing providing the food and fiber for not only the U.S., but for people around the globe. So with that said, I love this program. I do everything that I do with passion and with honesty, and you know, it's never made any difference who's at the lead. Whether I'm here today sorting the Bear County Fair, or I'll be in Oklahoma City a week from Sunday judging the National Charlet Show. And no matter where it is, every single decision that I've ever made for the past 30-something years of evaluating livestock, I've made it honestly, and I've left happy and proud and pleased with my decisions. And I'm not asking anybody to agree with me. I'm just asking you to see the differences that I see in them, and if you opt to put your emphasis somewhere else, that's also good. So I urge you kiddos to live life with passion, because we never know when our last day here might be. So don't live to do things halfway. I mean, there's, you know, I know that a lot of people talk about participation ribbons and that life's not about that. Guys, I'll tell you that life's not about not living with passion, because no matter what you do, from playing football to doing schoolwork to living life to showing livestock, the winners are the ones that do it with passion. And for those of you that aren't back out here in this championship drive, have a little more passion with the project next year, and just so happens that maybe you'll be out here if you do that. So with that said, thanks for having me here. We live in an awful crazy world today, so all of you be thankful for what you have. Go home, kiddos, and thank your moms, dads, aunts, uncles, grandmas, grandpas, county agents, ag teachers, anyone who's played a part in getting you to this point in life. Thank them, because you never know when they're not going to be there. So with that said, there's a pair of steers out here that match up quite nicely for me. I think they're both going to be really competitive at the next level. Let's put our hands together for these kids, and I'll show you the two that I like best today.
Congratulations to Ms. Alexandria Thomas from East Central FFA. This will be the third year that she's won the Grand Champion Steer here at Bear County. Give her a round of applause. And our reserve champion goes to Mr. Logan Miller of East Central FFA. Congratulations. Get ready for showmanship.
And so the reserve and grand champion of the show have been crowned.
So we're switching up judges. If you'd like to get your pictures made, you seniors, while we're doing showmanship, you can definitely do that as well.
And what's coming next is going to be
Alexandria
showmanship. They're going to start off with the heifers, and then they will move into the...
I guess it's it. Troy the tease. I guess you got one. What about Troy, Bridget? Nope.
All right, we'll go ahead and let our junior in. We have one single entry in our junior heifer division. First and final call for our senior heifer showman. Senior heifer showman need to check in at this point. Let's check in with our staff. We only have a single entry in the juniors. We need to make sure we have you registered and ready to go. Again, our champion buckle is going to be awarded by the Texas Farm Bureau. If you are not a member, you should see one of our representatives here, as they can help you with your insurance needs. If you haven't got your pictures made, please make your way over to the picture backdrop. There is very few in the lineup right now waiting to get pictures made. All steers that got a ribbon and made the sale must have a picture made. We do understand that several of you may have multiple entries that have placed. Only one, and you'll need to let you know your ag teacher or county agent or leader which animal you'll be showing or selling at the sale. Only one animal may sell at the sale. And congratulations to Mr. Brody Pfizer. Next, we will be doing our senior heifer showmanship. A few more entries in this division. go ahead and let those in the ring now.
So entering the ring now is the seniors that will be competing for senior showmanship. Seniors is classified those students that are 14 years of age and older up until seniors in high school. Whereas the first part of the show in the heifer and market steers, it was the animal that made up the bulk of the success of the exhibitor. Here it is now kind of like the tables have turned. And what I mean by that is it is really now focusing on the exhibitor and how well they show an animal. So of course they're looking at if the judge, if they make eye contact with the judge, you really want to try to keep the animal between you and the judge. You want to make sure that you make eye contact and are aware of where the judge is being. And then ultimately the judge is looking at how well the exhibitor sets the animal up. Is the exhibitor setting the animal up for success? There's 7 exhibitors in the ring competing for senior showmanship.
You good? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Be careful going on.
Hi, Larry.
See ya. Hey, I want to know, do I get invited to like go fishing now since like I know.
Welcome to Breeding.
All right, we're out here in the showmanship in the senior division. We got a good group of seniors out here. I watched them during the heifer show earlier. Had to just get them out here to reconfirm a few things and kind of watch them one last one. I think the one that suits me best to be your champion. Senior show is going to be the young lady on the far side. Does a tremendous job. Did a tremendous job during the heifer show this morning. Does a tremendous job when we get out here. Heifer is always set. Got the stick in the right position for me. Hand set just right the way I like to see it. She'll be your champion. For our reserve in this division, I'm going to go to this young man right here in front of me, like bald-faced singing heifer. Did a tremendous job in the heifer show earlier today. Come out here and get this heifer put in position the way she needs to. Always doing a good job. Not that you other kids are doing a bad job, but these two excelled in my mind as to how we're getting these cattle shown. Congratulations.
Thank you, Jen Seller. We want to congratulate Emerald Robles. All right, good job. And we want to follow up and say congratulations to Luke House of the Art Reserve. Excellent job. Make sure that both of you are getting your award. Steers, we're looking for a junior and a senior. So we'll start with junior showmanship. That's 13 and under, and then we'll do our senior, which is 14 and above. Margaret?
You win. Junior and senior. That's right. I know my ass over there.
Entering the ring is going to be our junior steer Sherman. The Zeller has been judging them as they've been showing all day long. So he has a good idea of what he's looking for. He's reaffirming what he's done and seeing how these kids react at the end of the day. So he'll come back in just a minute and he'll award your winners.
as we get out here in this junior steer showmanship. We've got 6 young folks out here all doing a tremendous job. It's been a long day of getting these cattle washed and ready this morning and through the scales and classified and then straight into the heifer show, the steer show. So we've had a long day, the cattle have had a long day. But we've got a couple of showmen in my mind that are really excelling in getting these cattle set, who are here early, paying attention, doing what they're supposed to, getting the feet set the way we need to at all times, doing different little things that make the big deal in the end, make it easier for these cattle to be seen and be shown. I think as we evaluate, because I want to commend the young man over here at the gray steer that got in a bind down here, got too crowded. He pulled out, went down here on this other end. That's a good move when you get in that crowded position. Good job. But I think the kid that suits me best to be your champion showman in this division is going to be this young man right here with the red steer. Good job of getting him set every time. You were standing at that gate ready and waiting. When you got him set over here, he was right. Came around over here, you set him twice on this side, set him right every time. Good job. Tells me there's a lot of work been going on at home to get that cat to do those things. Our reserve in this division is going to go to the young lady with the red steer down there on this other end. Does a tremendous job. Always got a smile on her face. Kind of got that corner down here a little harder to set him in a corner. But she did a good job of getting him there, getting him set. Always has his head up, has his feet right. Doing a good job with the stick, just stroking him slowly. Good job. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Bradley Williford, East Central FFA. Proud of you doing that today. And our reserve champion goes to Ms. Savannah Risto of St. Edwin 4-H. Good job. Next, we'll have the senior steer showman coming in. Senior steer showman. Contestants for our senior showmanship. At the conclusion, we do want to make sure that we get all of our showman pictures at the backdrop. And the buckle is being awarded by Texas Farm. If you are not a member, we encourage you to reach out to one of his representatives and think about your insurance needs. Rose, and Ken Lester for helping out the room today. We're very happy for Mark Jinsky and his things. He's been cattle.
Great group of seniors out here for the senior steer showmanship. Got a tremendous amount of kids, good ring full of kids, all doing great things, doing a tremendous job of getting these cattle showed. Some doing a touch better. Every once in a while, some of them are stretching them out a little too much for me, getting that hind leg back a little too far. I guess one thing I preach to my kid at home every time when we're lining them up, you look at them, I want to be able to see from their nose to their tail looks like a straight line. I don't want a banana look. I tell the Emma that all the time. We're not showing bananas, we're showing cattle, so let's keep them in a straight line from that nose to that tail. Let's get those feet set, get that head where it needs to. Lots of little things to do, but I think it's a great group of kids, and y'all are all doing a tremendous job. You can see these cattle are getting a little on the tired side. But I think there's a couple of young folks out here that really suit my fancy when I watch them show and watch them show throughout the day and watch how they get them presented. For me, the champion showman's going to be this young lady right right over here at the Blue Road. Congratulations. Does a tremendous job. Always got that calf set. His head is always up. His feet are in position. She's smooth on the stick. Does a tremendous job of getting that done. And for our reserve, I'm going to go with the young lady on the far side with the short one. Does a tremendous job with that stick. Calf's head is always where I like to see it. Sometimes she uses that stick a little more on his nose than what I would do, but does a good job with that, getting that calf shown, getting him presented. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Jordan McCullough from. Great job. Reserve champion today will be Miss Alexandria Thomas. And that concludes our show today. Again, if you had a steer that priced, please get your picture made. That's how you'll be recognized at the show. Again, if you are going to one of our champions in the showmanship, please get your picture made as well. Again, we would like to thank our judges, Mr. Seller, Mr. Thomas, as they put in a long day, and our directors. Thank you.